Welcome to the Stoic Storyteller, your sanctuary for raw, unfiltered stories about the darker side of human nature. Here, we dive deep into the reality of life, the toxic relationships, the bitter betrayals, and the quiet, calculating art of absolute justice.
17 years after my newborn daughter was declared dead, a murdered nurse mailed me her hospital bracelet. The girl my aunt raised was mine. At my father's retirement gala, they planned to make the theft permanent, until I played the delivery room recording they buried with my wife. 17 years after I buried my daughter, her hospital bracelet arrived in the mail. The envelope had no return address. Inside were three things: a faded pink newborn band printed with baby girl Hale, a silver locket that had belonged to my wife, and a note written in a shaking hand. "Your daughter did not die. Serena took her." My aunt was 6 years younger than my father and only 9 years older than me. She had spent 17 years running the Hale Children's Foundation, appearing on television beside sick infants, grieving parents, and the daughter she claimed to have adopted after years of infertility. Maya, the girl, had dark eyes. Everyone told me grief could make resemblance feel like evidence. I had believed them because believing anything else meant my family had placed my child in front of me at Christmas, birthdays, and hospital fundraisers while I mourned her. The locket contained a photograph of at 19. I had fastened it around her neck before the emergency delivery. When doctors told me she died from an amniotic embolism, the necklace was missing. My father, Grant Hale, said the trauma team cut it away, said personal effects often vanished during emergencies. The hospital administrator said no chain of custody record existed because entered through a private family suite. Every explanation had sounded ordinary alone. Together, they formed a locked room. My phone rang. The caller identified herself as Moss, a retired neonatal nurse from Hale Memorial Women's Center. "I sent the package," she said. "Where are you? Do not come to my house. Is Maya my daughter?" Her breath caught. "Yes." The word removed the floor beneath 17 years. I sat at my kitchen table with the bracelet in my palm. "How?" "Delivered a stillborn girl that same night. Your daughter was healthy." Silence. "Did kill my wife. I cannot say this on the phone. Then tell the police. I tried once. Your father had me declared confused and medically unfit. My family owned 6 hospitals, 3 fertility centers, a medical records company, and the charity that trained family court advocates across the county. A retired nurse accusing them could be transformed into a patient before finishing a sentence. Told me to meet her at the old maternity chapel at 9 that night. She had the original delivery log and a cassette recorded from the operating room intercom. Why wait 17 years? Your mother made me promise until Maya was old enough to choose. My mother died 8 years ago. I know. What did she know? Everything. The line disconnected. My father announced his retirement gala that afternoon. A gold invitation appeared in my email, as though the family had not excluded me from board events for a decade. Grant Hale, a legacy of care. The gala would take place Saturday night in the hospital's new glass atrium. Would become chair of Hale Health. Maya would sign the founders. Continuity trust on stage, transferring voting control of family shares to until Maya turned 30. I had never known shares survived. My daughter's inheritance had been used to finance the woman who stole her. At 8:45, I drove toward. Police lights blocked the road. His car had left the bridge and struck the riverbank. Witnesses saw no braking. Detective found me standing beyond the tape. "Did you know her?" she asked. I lied. "No." Then an officer brought his handbag from the wreck. Inside was a second envelope addressed to me. The original delivery log was gone. The cassette was gone. Only a Polaroid remained. Sat in a hospital bed, holding a newborn wrapped in its yellow blanket. My father stood beside her. On the back had written, "They buried Serena's child under your daughter's name." My baby's funeral had contained another mother's dead child, and that mother had raised mine. Moss's death became an accident before the tow truck arrived. The road was wet. The guardrail was old. She was 71. Every fact was true, and arranged toward the conclusion my family needed. Detective did not accept it immediately. She asked why seatbelt had been cut after impact, and why the vehicle's emergency braking system had been disabled through a hospital fleet account. The car was registered to Hale Home Nursing. My father's company still owned it. I showed the bracelet, locket, note, and Polaroid. She did not react with television disbelief. She photographed each item, placed them in separate evidence bags, and asked for Maya's age. 17. And you were told your daughter died 17 years ago? Yes. Did you see the body? The question made shame feel physical. No. After died, I was sedated. My father told me the baby's injuries were severe and advised a closed coffin. He said seeing her would damage me permanently. The coffin weighed almost nothing. I had noticed. I had allowed grief to explain it, requested the original birth and death certificates. The state registry showed baby girl Hale born at 2:14 a.m. and dead at 2:22. Cause: respiratory failure associated with emergency delivery. Maya Vale's birth certificate listed as mother. No father, born at 3:03 a.m. in a different Hale facility 30 miles away. The facility had no maternity ward. Julian Price, Hale Health's general counsel, had filed both records. Julian was husband. He had legally created his own daughter from my child. The death certificate carried my electronic signature. I stared at it. I never signed this. Enlarge the audit trail. The signature came from a grief settlement I completed 2 days after the funeral. My father's lawyer handed me a tablet and said the documents released medical information and authorized burial. One signature had been applied across 23 forms. Among them, acceptance of the infant death record, waiver of independent autopsy, transfer of estate to a family trust, and acknowledgement that no surviving child existed. My family had not forged everything. They had used my worst day to make me participate. The settlement paid me $2 million from a malpractice fund. I donated most of it to the Children's Foundation, built her public career with money attached to my silence, asked whether I had challenged the records later. For 6 months, then my father arranged a psychiatric evaluation after I entered the maternity archive without authorization. The doctor diagnosed complicated grief with paranoid fixation. He told the board I was unsafe around infants, volunteered to protect Maya from me at family gatherings. I began avoiding them. The system did not need to restrain me after it taught me that resistance proved illness. Ordered a forensic test on the bracelet. Dried blood remained beneath the plastic seam. The hospital had collected infant heel prick samples for metabolic screening. The DNA belonged to a female child, biologically related to me. A father-daughter probability, above 99.9%. Maya was mine. Said we still needed a legal sample from her to prove the girl and the bracelet matched. I called. She answered from a gala rehearsal. Music and applause echoed behind her. I know about the switch, I said. Silence. Then was unwell. She is dead. What? Her surprise sounded real. That frightened me more. Did Julian kill her? You are spiraling again. I have the bracelet. The rehearsal noise stopped. Lowered her voice. Do not contact Maya. She is my daughter. She is not a possession you recover after 17 years. The sentence was morally correct from the person who had stolen her. Tell her, I will protect her from this. You mean from me? I mean from a man who signed away every claim and vanished when parenting became difficult. I was told she was dead. You wanted to believe it. The cruelty contained enough truth to penetrate. I had accepted the funeral, accepted the settlement, accepted distance from Maya, because the alternative required accusing everyone I depended on. Said the gala would proceed. If I appeared, security would remove me under the psychiatric risk order still active in the hospital network. Then she added, was not supposed to die. Not I did not kill her. Not I know nothing. Not supposed to. Who was supposed to frighten her? I asked. The line ended. Received a call from the medical examiner. Had not died from the crash. A needle mark lay beneath her hairline. She was dead before the car left the bridge. The nurse had survived 17 years of silence. Someone killed her on the first day. She tried to return my daughter's name. Maya knew me as the unstable cousin who ruined Christmas. That was the family description. At 12, she watched guide me out of a holiday dinner after I asked why Maya's newborn photographs used the same yellow blanket as delivery bag. At 14, she saw security stop me outside a foundation event because I tried to speak with Moss. At 16, she heard my father explain that grief sometimes makes people attach themselves to other families' children. Every attempt I made became part of her fear, advised me not to contact her without a child advocate. The law still recognized, and Julian as her parents. Biology did not automatically restore a stolen childhood. I understood that. My body did not. The next morning, Maya appeared outside my apartment. She wore a Hale Foundation sweatshirt and held Polaroid. "I found this in Mom's desk," she said. She still called Mom. She had the right. I stepped back from the door. "You can leave whenever you want." Her eyes narrowed. Why would I need permission? Because every adult in her life had turned doors into agreements. I said, "You don't." She entered. Maya resembled more closely in motion than in photographs. The way she touched the side of her thumb when anxious. The slight tilt before asking a difficult question. Genetics can become dangerous when grief interprets every gesture as ownership. She placed the Polaroid on the table. "Is this your wife's blanket?" "Yes." Says families reused hospital things. "Maybe." "You don't believe that?" "No." Maya asked whether I believed I was her father. I gave the only answer that did not ask her to rescue me. "The bracelet says the baby born to and me was biologically mine. I believe you may be that baby. I do not expect you to feel anything about me." She looked surprised, had likely prepared her for demands, accusations, and instant fatherhood. Maya said she had never seen her original birth certificate. Julian kept all identity papers in the family vault. She had no baby photographs before 3 months. Told her adoption records were sealed because her birth mother had been dangerous. "Did you ever think it was me?" I asked. "Once." "What changed?" "Grandpa showed me your psychiatric file. My father had given a child private medical records to preserve a lie." Maya removed a voice recorder from her bag. "I told I was going to school. Do they track you?" "My phone, not this." She had learned secrecy inside their care. Maya played a recording from the previous night. And Julian argued. Julian said death would bring police. Replied, "I told you to recover the cassette, not erase her." Julian said the driver made a decision. "What driver?" asked. "Someone who understands continuity." Then my father entered. Grant said, "The gala must happen before reaches the trust." Answered, "He already reached Maya." My daughter paused the recording. "They know I came here." My front door lock clicked. The building's security system announced a welfare check. 2 Hale medical officers stood in the hall with police. They carried an emergency psychiatric order naming me a danger to a minor. Maya looked at me. "Did you call anyone?" "No." The officer asked her to step away from me. She did not. Appeared behind them, breathless and tearful. "Maya, honey, come here." Maya's face changed at the tenderness. Love does not become fake because it is used strategically. She moved halfway toward, then stopped. "Did Aunt die because of the cassette?" Looked at Julian. He was not there. That answer mattered. Said, "We will talk at home." "No." The police officer said Maya was a minor and must return to her legal guardian. Arrived before they removed me. She challenged the psychiatric order. The signature belonged to Dr. Adrian Cross, the same psychiatrist who evaluated me 17 years earlier. He had issued it without examining me. The officer still enforced Maya's custody status. Took her hand. Maya looked back. "Are you coming to the gala?" "If you want me there." "I want the truth there." Pulled her into the elevator. My daughter had not asked for a father. She had asked for evidence. I would not confuse the two. The founders, Continuity Trust, had been created by mother. Inherited 49% of Hale Health after her parents funded its first fertility center. The shares would pass to her first surviving child. Until that child turned 18, the legal guardian controlled the vote. Maya's 18th birthday was Sunday. The gala was Saturday night. At midnight, planned to have Maya sign an adult continuity election, extending guardianship control until 30. The trust document called it voluntary. The gala program called it honoring family stewardship. Maya had been told refusing would destroy the hospital network and cost 12,000 employees their jobs. Consent framed as catastrophe. My father's retirement required her signature because Grant controlled 2% and controlled 49% through her own holdings. Maya's inherited shares broke the balance. Child had always been the center of the company. That explained why my family did not simply kill the baby. They needed her alive and legally attached too. My lawyer, Brooks, traced the original trust, had added one handwritten clause 3 weeks before delivery. No guardian with a financial interest may vote the child's shares after age 18 without independent counsel selected by the beneficiary. Julian removed the clause from the digital version. The paper original remained in a bank vault. The bank had merged with Hale Financial 12 years earlier. My father controlled access, filed an emergency petition. Judge Mercer it, stating uncertainty over Maya's identity and the risk of destabilizing a major healthcare provider. The judge sat on the Hale Children's Foundation Advisory Council. The family did not need to own the court, only its idea of responsible disruption. Searched his apartment. The rooms had been professionally cleaned before police arrived. The mattress was replaced. Computer drives were removed. The building manager said Julian Price's office authorized biohazard remediation 3 hours after the crash. Had hidden one item inside a heating vent. A case, empty, on the labels, delivery room B, 207 to 319. The cassette existed. Julian had it. The nurse's murder was not only about identity proof. The delivery room recording captured death. I confronted my father at Hale Tower. Grant stood in front of a wall displaying newborn photographs from the hospital's charity work. He was 72, silver-haired, controlled, and surrounded by evidence of the kindness he marketed. He dismissed his staff. "You should not be here," he said. "You knew Maya was mine." His face did not change. "Yes, the honesty made me dizzy." "Why? Was dead. You were sedated, suicidal, and incapable of caring for an infant." "I was grieving. You put your fist through an operating room window. My wife died, and had lost a child, so you traded them. I preserved the living child." The language arrived fully formed after 17 years of repetition. "You told me she was dead. You would have refused. She was mine. She was herself." Another correct sentence used to excuse theft. Grant said became Maya's mother in every way that mattered daily. She fed her, stayed awake during illness, attended school meetings, and built a stable home. All true. None explained the coffin. Did know. His eyes moved toward the window. She suspected pregnancy had failed. Did kill her. No. Did you let her die? No. The second denial came slower. I asked about. Grant said Julian overreacted. He did not authorize murder. You knew they would frighten her. I knew a legal team would recover stolen hospital material. Then who used the needle? He looked tired. Driver Owen Pike. Julian controls him. A name. My father was giving up one employee to protect the structure. Later found Owen Pike in a hotel room, dead from an apparent overdose. A typed confession sat beside him admitting he killed, without instruction after she threatened the Hale family. The signature was digital. No fingerprints on the keyboard. No needle packaging. Another dead person volunteering for the company. Before I left Grant's office, he said, "The Gala is not about. It is about keeping the hospitals open. And Maya's. She is the only person who can save them." He had turned my daughter into a life support machine for the family business. At midnight Sunday, the trust would become hers. Saturday night, every adult planned to make her believe saying no would kill strangers. My mother knew Maya was my daughter before the funeral. Ruth Hale left me no diary. She left appointment cards. After's death, noticed one card inside the locket compartment. It listed a storage unit under Ruth's maiden name. The unit contained 8 boxes labeled with ordinary household words. Winter clothes held hospital records. Kitchen held photographs. BOOKS held legal correspondence. Baby held the truth. Ruth had Maya's heel prick test, stillbirth report, operative notes, and the false death certificate before Grant locked the archive. She also kept letters she wrote to me and never sent. I am trying to bring her back without losing her to state care. Your father says the company will collapse if the trust identifies the correct guardian. Threatened to tell the court you attempted suicide. I keep waiting for a safer moment, and I am becoming part of the theft. The final letter was dated 8 years ago, 2 days before Ruth died from an accidental overdose. I remembered the call. Grant said my mother had mixed sleep medication with wine. Found her in bed. Julian handled the estate. The family discouraged an autopsy because Ruth had suffered enough. Her storage file contained a police report draft accusing of infant abduction, Grant of medical fraud, and Julian of falsifying civil records. At the bottom, Ruth had written, "I will give this to EVELYN Friday." Ruth died Thursday night, remained silent for 8 more years. Not because she lacked evidence, because my mother's death showed what the evidence cost. Reopened the case. Ruth's prescription history showed a medication she had stopped taking 3 months earlier. Dr. Adrian Cross renewed it remotely the day she died. Security footage placed at the house for 42 minutes before the emergency call said she found Ruth unconscious and attempted CPR. No paramedic record, mentioned CPR injuries or disturbed bedding. Grant signed the no autopsy directive. The family had buried another woman without letting her body contradict them. In the storage unit, I found a recording of Ruth speaking to Maya at age 9. The video came from a hidden camera during a grandmother visit. Ruth asked, "Do you ever feel your mother is afraid you will leave?" Maya said, "Mom says every child leaves if you don't love them enough." Had turned abandonment into a daily obligation. Ruth told Maya that love should not require making another person less free. Then the door opened. Entered. The video stopped. A second audio file captured their argument afterward. Ruth said, "I am telling." Answered, then Maya loses the only mother she knows and gains a man who breaks when people leave. Ruth said, "You made him break." Replied, "Grant made the decision." And silence. Ruth asked again, "What did you give?" Whispered, "She was bleeding. The drug was supposed to slow the delivery." What drug? Something prepared. Doctor is obstetrician. He retired to Portugal after the birth and died 5 years later in a boating accident. Or so the family obituary said. Searched passport records. Had not left the country. A man with his birth date lived under the name Frank Cole in a Hale long-term care facility. Legally dead. Physically confined. The pattern extended beyond infants. The family erased anyone who became dangerous and called the result care. We visited the facility under warrant. Frank Cole sat in a locked memory unit, though his cognitive tests were normal. He recognized me. His husband. What did give her? He looked toward the camera, covered it, said injected with a drug intended to suppress early labor until its own delivery outcome could be decided. The dose caused uterine crisis and hemorrhage. Did she know it could kill her? Yes. Did my father? He approved delay. He did not approve the dose. Why delay? Because child had no heartbeat. Your daughter did. The family needed time to convert one birth into another. Tried to call a second surgical team. Grant canceled the transfer. Might have survived at a trauma center. My father chose privacy over the ambulance. Caused the emergency. Grant allowed it to become fatal. Said Ruth discovered the details years later and threatened exposure. Who killed her? He began answering. The fire alarm activated. Facility doors locked. Smoke entered the memory wing. Someone was burning the last living doctor before he could name my mother's killer. The memory wing fire started inside the records room. Not enough to destroy the building, enough to trigger door locks and move every resident through Hale emergency transport. A controlled evacuation creates confusion without looking like attack. Broke the magnetic lock with a fire axe. We moved through a laundry exit, while Hale ambulances carried residents toward facilities owned by the same company. Outside, a masked paramedic tried to take his wheelchair, pulled the mask away. Julian Price, his husband and the family lawyer, stood in an emergency uniform with a syringe in his pocket. He ran. Officers caught him near the loading bay. The syringe contained potassium chloride, a drug capable of producing cardiac arrest without obvious external injury. The same compound had been found in his tissue. Julian claimed he carried it as part of a physician-supervised emergency kit. He was not a physician. His phone contained Owen Pike's typed confession before the timestamp of Pike's death. Arrested him for evidence tampering and attempted murder. The prosecutor released him 6 hours later pending review, arguing the syringe could not be tied to intent, and Julian's presence reflected his role as Hale Crisis Counsel. Privilege had become physical armor. Entered protective custody. He gave a full statement. On the night Maya was born, delivered a stillborn daughter at 1:51 a.m. in a private suite. Entered emergency labor nearby after injection. Maya was born healthy at 2:14. Deteriorated. Grant ordered staff to list Maya under temporary chart, while he resolved guardianship. Objected. Julian, then a junior hospital attorney, engaged too. Drafted a maternal reassignment based on an alleged embryo surrogacy agreement. No such agreement existed. At 2:22, stillborn child was registered as baby girl Hale and declared dead. At 3:03, Maya was registered as daughter at a non-maternity facility to avoid conflicting records. Remained alive until 4:16. She asked for me. Grant told staff I had collapsed and could not enter. I had been sedated in the family waiting room. Asked whether the baby was safe. Answered yes, true in the narrowest way. Then asked who held her. No one answered. Attempted emergency transfer at 3:31. Grant revoked it, citing instability and the risk of moving her. The trauma center was 7 minutes away. Died 45 minutes later. My father had not killed her with an injection. He killed her with authority. Recorded the operating room intercom because he feared the staff would be blamed. Took the cassette. Ruth later recovered it. After Ruth died, hid it somewhere Grant could not reach. Where, I asked. Said Ruth planned to place it inside the Gala cornerstone. Hale Tower's atrium had been built over the original maternity chapel. The hospital displayed a bronze time capsule beneath the retirement stage. The cassette was inside the foundation's own monument. Gala would take place directly above's final recording. Also identified Ruth's killer, not Julian. Ruth called him to her house because she believed he might protect Maya from. She offered to keep his role in the birth fraud private if he helped correct the trust. Julian drugged her wine, staged the overdose, and removed the police report. Arrived later. She found Ruth alive but unconscious. She could have called emergency services. Instead, she called Grant. Grant arrived. They waited until Ruth stopped breathing. No one person administered every death. The family specialized, created the crisis. Julian delivered the poison. Grant authorized delay. Then each blamed the next step. I asked why he remained silent. Grant threatened my license. Then, he paid me. The answer mattered. Accepted a private identity, money, and controlled freedom. Later, when he tried to leave, they declared him dead and moved him into the memory unit. Victim and participant. No clean witness. Asked if he would testify at the gala. No. He feared. Reasonable. Then he looked at me. You want the recording to return your daughter? Yes. It will not. I know. Do you? I thought of Maya asking for truth, not a father. I am trying. Nodded. The dead doctor would testify in court. The cassette would speak at the gala. But Julian now knew we were searching for it. He had one night to remove the voice beneath the stage. Came to my apartment alone. No lawyers. No driver. No camera visible. She carried a folder and locket, which police had returned to me after testing. I had not told her they released it. Julian still had access to the evidence system. She placed the locket on the table. Maya's not property, she said. I know. Then stopped saying I stole her as though she were a car. You switched her with a dead baby. I raised her. Both. The word unsettled her. Expected me to erase motherhood or erase crime. I refused the simplification. She opened the folder. A custody agreement. After Maya turned 18, would disclose the biological truth privately. Maya could choose contact with me. Would resign as trustee at 21, not 30. I would receive access to family medical records and a public apology for miscommunication surrounding the birth. In return, I would not attend the gala, challenge the company transfer, or accuse of criminal conduct. She was offering to give my daughter back in scheduled portions. What happens to Julian? He will be separated from Hale legal operations. Prison. What happens to Dad? Retirement. And her face tightened. I did not order her death. You ordered recovery of the cassette. Yes. You knew Julian's methods. I believed he would use legal pressure, like he did with Ruth. She looked away. She had called Julian after finding my mother unconscious. She knew exactly what his pressure could become. Said the company employed 12,000 people and served thousands of vulnerable families. A public scandal would close maternity wards, fertility programs, and neonatal units. The family's crimes always arrived with patients held in front. Then transfer the hospitals to independent control. People without our experience will destroy them. You mean people you cannot command? She stood. You disappeared from Maya's life. I was told she was yours. You attended birthdays and stared at her like evidence. Then you left early and drank. True. Do you know what she needed after nightmares? Which foods she would eat during fever? The name of the teacher who humiliated her at 13. No. I do. True. The person who commits the theft may also do the daily work. That does not reverse the theft. It complicates the child's loss. Said plan to leave me before delivery. She showed me an email draft. I recognized writing. She was afraid of my dependence on Grant, my drinking after financial stress, and my willingness to let the family manage every decision. She considered separating until I left Hale Health. The truth hurt. Watched for it to become leverage. I said she still did not choose you. No. The answer came quietly. For 1 second, the public mother disappeared. A woman who lost a stillborn child and saw a living baby within reach remain. Then she said, I deserved one thing that survived that night. There it was. Grief transformed into entitlement. Maya was not the thing. Eyes filled. She is my daughter. She may always call you that. Hope appeared. I continued. And she still deserves to know you took her. Close the folder. Before leaving, she said Julian had moved the cassette from the cornerstone years ago. Where? Grant keeps it in his private safe. Why tell me? Because if you play it publicly, Maya will hear her mother die. The warning carried care and strategy together. Knew I wanted justice through exposure. She was asking whether Maya wanted the same. After she left, I called Maya through the advocate. I told her a recording existed from the delivery room. I did not describe it. You decide whether it is played at the gala, I said. She was silent for a long time. Will it prove who I am? Yes. Will it prove what they did? Yes. Does it have my birth mother's voice? Yes. Maya said, I want to hear it first, alone with someone who isn't family. Her decision removed the tape from my revenge. Arranged an independent trauma specialist. The cassette would not become public until Maya consented. Had offered to give her back. The first act of parenthood I could perform was refusing to take her choice. I had one sibling, Aaron Hale, my younger brother. He lived in Chicago, avoided the company, and told reporters our family was complicated but generous. He had not attended Ruth's funeral and declined the retirement gala. I assumed distance meant ignorance, then found his signature on the private clinic payments for. Aaron had been sending money for 9 years. He met me in an airport hotel, pale and furious. You were not supposed to find him. You knew was alive. I kept him alive. The family's sentence again. Aaron said Ruth contacted him before her death. She revealed Maya's identity and asked him to move out of Hale control. Aaron attempted it. Julian discovered the transfer. To prevent being killed, Aaron negotiated a new arrangement. Monthly payments, a private room, and no external contact. You financed imprisonment. I bought time. For 9 years. I kept asking him to testify. He refused. Did you tell me? You were drinking and threatening to break into the hospital. I was grieving. You were dangerous to the plan. Even the sibling outside, the company had learned to call concealment strategy. Aaron also knew about the cassette. Ruth gave him a copy. Where is it? Gone. He destroyed it after Julian sent photographs of his children entering school. Blackmail worked. Aaron chose his family. Another family member disappeared from mine. Why come now? I asked. He opened his laptop. The destroyed cassette had been digitized first. He kept an encrypted file, but never listened to the full recording. The password required 2 family voices. Ruth designed it so no one sibling could release it alone. Aaron's phrase, I choose the living. Mine, even when the dead accuse us. Ruth understood the family's obsession with controlling evidence. Together, we opened it. The recording began with surgical commands, alarms, and asking whether the baby cried. A nurse said yes. His voice entered. Move her now. Objected. Grant said, only until we know which chart survives. Which chart? Not which baby. Asked for me. A staff member said I had been sedated under family authorization. Then said something I had never known. Do not let sign anything. She understood the danger before dying. Grant told her the baby needed stable guardianship. Said she has a father. Answered he has a breakdown. The recording continued through the canceled transfer. Maya's cries faded down the corridor. Asked where they were taking her. No one answered. The trauma specialist stopped the recording before its final minutes and asked Maya whether she wanted to continue. She did. I waited in another room with Aaron. At 4:10's voice became faint. Tell my daughter I did not leave her. Then the cardiac alarm. The cassette ran 4 minutes longer. Grant said, the infant death certificate is ready. Julian asked, which mother signs the living birth? Answered, I do. The recording ended. Maya remained alone with the specialist for an hour. When she emerged, she looked at me without moving closer. My mother's name was. Yes. Never said it. No. Did you know she wanted to leave you? I learned recently. Would you have let her? The question belonged to more than marriage. Would I have let a person I loved choose distance? I hope so. I don't know who I was then. Maya nodded. She said the recording could be played at the gala, but not the final section with death. The public would hear the birth, the transfer, and the canceled ambulance. Her mother's last words would remain private unless Maya later chose otherwise. We signed the boundary through the advocate. Aaron agreed to testify. Then he admitted one more secret. Grant did not keep the cassette in his safe. Aaron had told that to redirect Julian. The original remained hidden inside Ruth's coffin. My mother had arranged an exhumation clause if the family trust changed hands. The retirement transfer triggered it automatically. At noon Saturday, cemetery staff would open Ruth's grave under court supervision. Julian knew. The family gala began at 7. We had 7 hours to recover the cassette before someone buried my mother's evidence a second time. Ruth's grave was empty. The cemetery opened it at noon under a sealed family order. Aaron and I watched the vault lid rise. No coffin, only a concrete floor and an envelope. Grant had moved her. The envelope contained a copy of the exhumation clause and one sentence. Ask which daughter I buried. Ruth had 2 daughters. No, my father had 2. Was his sister, unless the family history was another legal arrangement. Aaron searched genealogy records while traced the cemetery transfer. Ruth's coffin had been moved 3 years earlier to a private mausoleum owned by the Vale Trust. Family, the trust had no reason to hold my mother. Uncovered a sealed adoption record. Was not Grant's sister. She was Grant and Ruth's first daughter, born when they were 17, placed for adoption, then brought back into the family at 12 under the story that she was Grant's much younger sister. Richard Hale, my grandfather, created the lie to avoid scandal and inheritance complications. Grant raised his own daughter as a sibling. Ruth treated publicly as a sister-in-law, and privately as the child she had surrendered. The family's identity theft began before Maya had grown up inside the knowledge that biology could be rewritten if power signed the form. Grant was not merely protecting his sister. He was protecting his daughter. Maya's aunt was also her half-sister by law. The family tree folded into itself through secrets. The revelation did not excuse anything. It explained why Ruth struggled to expose. She had already abandoned her once and mistook endless protection for repair. The private mausoleum belonged to Smother because Ruth asked her for help before the delivery. She suspected Grant would repeat the family's first secret with the next baby. Smother died before Maya's birth. The trust remained. We reached the mausoleum at 3. The door had been opened recently. Inside, Ruth's coffin stood beside its empty memorial niche. The lid was damaged. Someone had searched it. The lining had been cut. The cassette was gone. A camera in the corner transmitted live. Julian's voice came through a speaker. Thank you for confirming the second copy existed. He had followed Aaron's access request. The coffin search was bait. Julian said he had Maya at Hale Tower. The advocate had taken her to the gala preparation suite at her own request. Hale security replaced the advocate at the entrance using a forged court order. My daughter was inside the company's building hours before the event. Julian demanded the digital copy and all evidence in exchange for allowing Maya to leave before midnight. Will not let you hurt her, I said. No longer controls the plan. The marriage had fractured. Julian knew might sacrifice him to preserve motherhood and chairmanship. He intended to use Maya's trust vote to gain immunity and sole control. He had taken a child from the woman who once helped take her. Cycles do not make victims equal. Traced the speaker through a hospital network relay. Julian had called from the gala control room. Grant and were already in the building. Aaron wanted to send the digital file. Said no. I looked at Ruth's empty coffin. Every adult in the family kept deciding evidence mattered more than the child, until the person holding the child gained control. We go now. What about the cassette? Aaron asked. We have the digital recording. It can be challenged. Maya cannot. On the way out, found something beneath Ruth's coffin handle. A microfilm strip, the original birth and adoption records for. Ruth had preserved the first identity theft with the second. The strip also contained a handwritten note. Serena thinks Grant saved her. He bought her back after her adoptive mother threatened to report the Hale Trust. Grant had not lovingly reunited the family. He acquired a child to protect money, then raised her to believe control was rescue. At the gala, he planned to present as his sister and successor. The first truth we would expose was that his heir was the daughter he had spent 50 years denying. The retirement celebration would begin with a family tree collapsing on stage. Grant Hale purchased adoption for $200,000. The payment went to her adoptive mother through a Hale charitable grant. In exchange, the woman surrendered all contact and signed a statement saying had behavioral problems. Grant brought the 12-year-old girl into his parents' home and introduced her as a late-born sister. Ruth was instructed to behave like a sister-in-law, was told the arrangement protected her from public shame. Every relationship around her became a performance. At 21, she discovered the truth in a trust file. Grant promised to acknowledge her privately if she protected the Hale name. He never did. Then she lost a stillborn child, while delivered a living daughter whose inheritance could control Hale health. Grant offered the thing he had from her, a child who would publicly belong to her. The theft was personal before it was financial. That made it more dangerous, not more understandable. Prepared the records for court, prepared warrants. Aaron prepared the Gala feed. I prepared nothing heroic. I was afraid. At 5:30 called. Her voice shook. Julian locked me out of Maya's suite. Where is Grant? In the board salon. Does he know Julian killed? Yes. Does he know Julian has Maya? He says we must not create panic before the investors arrive. My father was still protecting the event. Open the building. Security follows Julian's continuity order. Use your chair authority. It does not activate until midnight. The system had already transferred power toward the lawyer who controlled the signatures. I asked whether she would testify. Against Julian. Against Grant. Against yourself. Silence. I can help you get Maya out. You can help her by telling the truth. She said, if I confess, I lose her. You may lose access either way. I am her mother. Yes. The agreement surprised her. I continued. You are also the person who stole her. She began crying. The line remained open. For once, I did not comfort the adult whose grief held the child hostage. Gave me a service code to the maternity simulation wing beneath the Gala stage. Julian had converted the old delivery rooms into donor exhibits. A freight lift reached the control suite. Why help me? I asked. Because he said Maya would sign with or without waking. Julian planned sedation. The family had used unconscious signatures before. Obtained emergency entry authority from a federal judge outside Hale influence. Local police delayed execution, citing Gala security. We entered through the service tunnel with federal agents. The building displayed videos of Grant holding babies, opening clinics, and funding maternal health. Below the images, the old intercom wires still ran through the walls. Aaron connected Ruth's digital cassette to the original system. At 7, the Gala began above us. Applause shook dust from the ceiling. Grant took the stage. My life has been devoted to ensuring every child begins with dignity. In the control suite, we found Maya strapped to a medical chair. Not unconscious, furious, the independent advocate lay sedated on the floor. Julian stood beside the trust console with a physician and 2 security officers. He held a tablet displaying Maya's synthetic adult face. We do not need her awake, he said. Raised her weapon. The physician stepped away. Security did not. Julian touched the tablet. On stage, Maya's pre-recorded image appeared beside Grant. I choose continuity, the synthetic voice said. The Gala applauded. Maya shouted from the chair. That is not me. Her real voice remained beneath the stage, while her false consent entered the trust. Aaron activated the old intercom. Maya's shout exploded through the atrium speakers. That is not me. The applause stopped. Grant turned toward the screen. Julian's system tried to mute the channel. Thence, delivery room recording entered the same speakers that had once carried her cries. The hospital could no longer distinguish memorial technology from evidence. The family Gala had begun to testify against itself. Its voice filled the glass atrium. My daughter has a father. The investors, doctors, judges, charity donors, and journalists looked toward the stage where Grant stood beneath a 30-foot portrait of himself. The recording continued. Ordering the baby moved. Objecting. Grant canceling the transfer. Julian asking which mother would sign the living birth. The audience heard enough to understand a child had been reassigned, while a woman bled. Aaron stopped before final minutes, honoring Maya's boundary. Julian cut the public feed. The local speakers remained active through the old maternity intercom. Arrested him in the control suite. He tried to activate a medical emergency lock. Service code overrode it. She entered as officers released Maya. For 1 second, the 3 of us stood around the girl. Each adult claimed through different evidence. Biology, daily motherhood, legal paperwork. Maya looked at. Did you know my first mother was dying? Said yes. Did you give her the drug? Yes. No explanation. Maya turned to me. Did you sign the death papers? Yes. Did you read them? No. She absorbed each answer. Then she asked to leave the control suite. No embrace, no selection. The advocate regained consciousness and accompanied her to a private room. The gala remained in lockdown as federal agents secured records. Grant asked for the microphone. The Attorney General advised him not to speak. He did anyway. He said the family had faced an impossible medical tragedy. Lost a child. Was dying. I was incapacitated. He made a temporary guardianship decision that became permanent because changing it later would traumatize Maya and destabilize the trust. A clean sequence. No injection. No canceled ambulance. No coffin. No murdered nurse. I walked onto the stage. Security hesitated, then allowed it under the federal order. Grant looked at me. You are making this a spectacle. You built the stage. I displayed adoption records. The audience learned Grant's sister was his daughter. The man celebrated for protecting children had erased his first child, bought her back, and required her to live under a false relationship. Entered the atrium. Grant said, I saved you. She stopped beneath the portrait. You purchased silence. The sentence altered him. He had expected loyalty from the person whose identity he controlled longest. Grant said the arrangement protected Ruth, the family, and the company. Replied, it protected you from being a father. Maya watched from a side room through the advocate's monitor. We did not show her face. The microfilm records appeared beside the false birth certificates. One generation of erased motherhood led to another. Grant accused of turning grief into abduction. Accused him of offering the child. Both true. Julian's recorded voice entered from the control suite as questioned him. He said Grant knew about's removal plan and approved containment. Grant authorizing murder. Julian answered, you never authorize the last step. You create a room where someone else completes it. The sentence described the family's entire system. Then the gala's emergency lights activated. A fire alarm reported smoke in the archive floor. Julian had scheduled automatic destruction if the trust transfer failed. The digital identity records, infant charts, and trust files would burn. Grant shouted for staff to protect the archives. Ran toward Maya. Their priorities separated visibly. I followed. Aaron and federal agents went toward the records. No one person had to choose child or evidence alone. That was how false emergencies lost power. At the private room, Maya was gone. A broken window opened onto the old rooftop maternity garden. One security officer lay unconscious. The advocate said a woman in a nurse's uniform took her. The camera showed Dr. Adrian Cross, the psychiatrist who declared me unstable and renewed Ruth's fatal medication. He had disguised himself and taken Maya into the smoke. Julian was not the only family servant who understood continuity. Cross had spent 17 years protecting Grant. Now he was carrying my daughter toward the helipad. Dr. Adrian Cross had evaluated every Hale family member who became inconvenient. Me after's death, Ruth before her overdose, before his legal death, after she tried to report the birth switch, employees who questioned records, mothers who challenged trust guardianship. His diagnoses did not need to be entirely false. Grief, anxiety, anger, and trauma were real. He used real pain to discredit accurate accusations. Cross pulled Maya across the rooftop garden toward a medical helicopter. Smoke from the archive floor moved through the vents, turning the glass tower orange beneath us. Reached him first. Adrian let her go. He held a syringe against Maya's neck. You told me the trust had to survive. Froze. Cross believed he was following her. Grant arrived behind us, breathing hard. I told you to secure the beneficiary. Beneficiary, not granddaughter, not daughter. Maya looked at him. The word mattered. Cross said the helicopter would take her to a private clinic until the Gala crisis ended. A temporary intervention, the same language used on everyone erased. I moved to the side. He pressed the syringe closer. You are the trigger. This is why the order called you unstable. Maya said he isn't moving. Cross looked down at her. She continued. You are. The distraction lasted 1 second. Struck his wrist. The syringe fell. Tackled him. Maya moved away from all of us and stood near the garden wall, breathing through panic. Grant approached. She raised one hand. Don't. He stopped. The command from a girl he had treated as a corporate switch entered his body like a verdict. Cross survived arrest. The syringe contained the same sedative used on me during delivery and on Ruth before her death. He confessed after learning Julian had blamed him for. Cross said Grant ordered clinical containment. Julian hired Pike to retrieve the cassette. Pike injected when she resisted. Julian later killed Pike and produced the confession. Grant never spoke the word kill. He did not need to. Cross described Ruth. Julian drugged her wine, found her unconscious, and called Grant. Cross told them an antidote could reverse the medication if administered quickly. Grant asked whether Ruth had already sent the police report. Searched the computer. Julian found the draft but not the copies. They waited. Cross monitored Ruth's breathing until it stopped. Then he certified accidental overdose. My father had been present for my mother's death. Had watched. The confession reached the Gala through live evidence feed. Grant sat in the rooftop garden as his legacy appeared on every news channel below. He said Cross was shifting blame. Cross answered, "You taught us blame belongs to the person who performs the final act." Grant looked at me. For years, I wanted him to admit he chose the company over us. Now the admission would not restore anything. I asked, "Did Mom ask for me?" His face changed. "Yes." "Did you call?" "No." One-word choices. Maya listened, began to tell her she was sorry. Maya said, "Not here." A boundary. Stopped. The archive fire was contained. Aaron had mirrored the records before suppression foam destroyed the servers. The trust transfer failed because Maya's synthetic consent was invalidated. At midnight, her shares legally vested under independent temporary counsel. She became the largest owner of a hospital network built from her stolen identity. The Attorney General asked whether she wished to authorize emergency operations. Maya looked at the burning floor, the cameras, Grant, and me. "I'm 17. The room went quiet. The adults had built a system requiring a child to save them and called it succession. A federal receiver assumed control. Maya did not sign. No hospital closed that night. The catastrophe had been another story designed to make consent feel necessary. The court held an emergency custody hearing the next morning. Maya would turn 18 in less than 24 hours. The question was where she would spend the final night of legal childhood. Requested home placement. I requested independent placement. Grant's lawyers requested hospital observation. Maya requested a hotel room with the advocate and no family. The judge asked whether she felt unsafe with. "I feel loved by her," Maya said. "I also feel unsafe." The distinction unsettled the room. Love had been treated as a certificate of fitness. She said had cared for her, comforted her, and built her childhood. Also lied about her birth, monitored her movement, used her trust, and helped keep the truth buried. Both. The judge asked whether she wished to stay with me. No. The answer hurt. It was also reasonable. "I met him this week," she continued. "He keeps looking at me like I came back from the dead." I lowered my eyes. She was not my returned baby. She was a nearly adult person with 17 years I had not lived. The advocate arranged the hotel. No parent, no aunt, no grandfather, no company employee. The first night belonged to Maya. Cried outside the courtroom. I did not comfort her. I did not celebrate her loss. I stood in the same hallway, grieving a different relationship. She said, "You got what you wanted." No. "You exposed us." Yes. "You took her from me." No, the truth changed what she could choose. Looked at me with hatred. "She will come back." Maybe. "If she calls me Mom, will you accept it?" Yes. The answer broke through her anger. She had expected me to demand replacement. I said, "If she never calls me Dad, I still testify." Justice could not depend on the reward of relationship. Grant entered the hallway under guard, but not yet charged. His attorneys arranged medical release due to age and cardiac risk. He asked me to support a private settlement. Hale Health would enter independent oversight for 5 years. Would resign. Julian and Cross would face prosecution. Grant would create a restitution fund and publicly acknowledge Maya's identity. In return, I would not pursue charges related to or Ruth. He still believed family could negotiate murder after calculating enough money. No. Trials will expose your signature and addiction history. Yes. You may lose Maya permanently. She is not a verdict. Grant's face hardened. You were never strong enough to protect a child from complexity. He meant obedience. I had mistaken the two for years. Filed charges against Julian and Cross first. Received a target letter for conspiracy, fraud, kidnapping, and failure to aid and Ruth. Grant remained under investigation for homicide-related conduct, obstruction, and medical fraud. Aaron turned over the digital cassette and financial records. He admitted destroying evidence years earlier. The prosecutor considered obstruction charges. No helper escaped sequence. At midnight, Maya turned 18 in the hotel suite. The advocate brought a small cake. No gala, no trust speech, no camera. Maya called first, then me. The calls lasted 7 minutes each. She asked me one question. What did you name me? I chose Ruth Hale. Do you want me to use it? No. The answer surprised her. It was the name given to a baby. You are Maya. She was silent. Can I keep two? If you want. The next week, she filed to add as a middle name. Maya Vale. Not Hale. Not a complete rejection. Not a surrender. Her name became the first family record she chose herself. Negotiated with prosecutors before Grant did. She offered to confess to his death. Not Ruth's. Not S. Not the birth fraud. She believed one dramatic crime could absorb the rest. Her statement said grief impaired her judgment. She administered an unauthorized drug to delay labor, causing fatal complications. Grant and Julian later created the identity switch without her understanding the full legal consequences. The confession made her look monstrous and less organized. A mother broken by stillbirth, not a woman who raised a stolen child, while controlling her inheritance for 17 years. Asked why she would admit homicide but deny fraud. Because she thinks juries forgive grief more than planning, I said. The prosecutor rejected the limited deal. Requested to meet Maya. Maya agreed with the advocate present. I was not invited. Later, Maya told me what happened because she chose to. Said she loved her from the first moment. Maya asked which first moment. When saw her in arms. When she signed the false birth certificate. When she carried her home. Could not choose. Maya asked whether intended to die. No. Did you know the drug could kill her? Yes. Did you know the ambulance might save her? Yes. Why didn't you call? Said because if she survived, they would take you. There it was. Not Grant. Not company. The possession she feared losing. Maya said, I was never yours to save by killing someone else. Answered, you became mine. Both experienced the relationship differently. Neither sentence erased the other. Then confessed to Ruth's death. She did not poison her. She watched her breathe slower and refused Cross's antidote. Grant wanted time to locate the police report. Julian searched the computer, sat beside Ruth. Ruth opened her eyes once and said, give her back. Whispered no. Then Ruth died. Had spent 8 years telling herself the antidote might not have worked. Cross's records showed a high probability it would. She confessed because Maya asked, not because the prosecutor did. That mattered emotionally. Legally, it became evidence. Grant's lawyers accused of shifting blame. Julian's lawyers said she was protecting her father. The family continued interpreting every truth through alliance. Before a grand jury, Aaron, I about the signature and psychiatric order. Maya provided a limited statement through counsel and refused media interviews. The retirement gala footage spread everywhere. Commentators called me the father who reclaimed his stolen daughter. I asked outlets to stop. They did not. The phrase sold. Maya released one written correction. I was not reclaimed. I learned the truth and chose distance from everyone involved. Her statement changed coverage for 2 days. Then headlines returned. Narratives prefer rescue to boundaries. Grant was charged with conspiracy, obstruction, medical kidnapping, and 2 counts related to willfully withholding emergency care from and Ruth. Faced manslaughter, kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy, and failure to aid charges. Julian faced murder charges in St. Pike's deaths, attempted murder of, fraud, kidnapping, and evidence destruction. Cross faced homicide-related charges for Ruth, medical imprisonment, and diagnoses. The company entered receivership. My own professional board opened an inquiry into my settlement signature, internal archive breach, and failure to report financial concerns years earlier. I had been 22 and sedated when I signed the death papers. I was older when I accepted family dividends and stopped asking. Different responsibility. Both entered the record, had confessed to the wrong murder because she thought one death could contain the family's guilt. It could not. Every victim required a name. Grant's deposition lasted 9 hours. He ordering any death. He admitted canceling ambulance, delaying Ruth's antidote, hiding, approving Maya's false identity, weaponizing my psychiatric evaluation, and authorizing containment. He treated each admission as proof that someone else made the final criminal choice. When the prosecutor asked why, Grant said, the hospitals had to survive. How many relatives could die before survival became meaningless? That is emotional language. So is legacy. He did not answer. I attended the final hour. Grant asked to speak with me privately afterward. The court allowed counsel and recording. He said Hale Health was his real child. The words should have shocked me. They clarified everything. He built the first clinic at 26. It survived bankruptcy, lawsuits, mergers, and scandals. He measured his value through beds, buildings, and names on foundations. Was sacrificed to protect it. Was sacrificed. Maya was reassigned. Ruth was allowed to die. I was diagnosed. Disappeared. Was contained. Every human child became a supporting organ for the institutional one. Grant said, "You think that makes me incapable of love?" "No. I loved all of you. I know." He looked surprised. Love had never been absent. It had been ranked. He asked whether I remembered him sleeping beside my hospital bed after I broke my arm, teaching me to drive, paying for his funeral, helping me through addiction treatment. I remembered. Care and harm remained inside the same father. Grant said he prevented me from killing myself after died. The hospital record showed he ordered sedation and continuous monitoring. I had said I did not want to live. He saved my life, then used my instability to steal my child. Both. You expect me to hate every good thing, he said. No, I expect the good things not to purchase silence. He looked down. For the first time, he seemed old rather than powerful. Grant asked whether Maya had spoken to me. Yes. Does she call you Dad? No. He nodded as though the absence proved his warning. You destroyed the only family she knew and gained nothing. The sentence carried the old bargain. Truth should provide ownership or remain buried. I gained nothing, I said. She gained choice. He looked toward the recorder. That is a slogan. No, it is what you kept taking. Grant offered one final fact. His mother had known might take the baby. She added the independent counsel clause, but did not remove the shares from Hale Health because she wanted her granddaughter to control the company eventually. The trust itself had placed a child inside corporate power before birth. Not all coercion came from the Hales. His family also treated descendants as governance. Maya later dissolved the voting trust into a restitution structure with the receiver's help. She retained no board seat. The company's survival no longer depended on her identity. Grant called the decision vandalism. I called it release. Before guards returned him to medical detention, he said, "You will understand when she leaves you too." He believed love lost its meaning when a person left. That belief built the whole tragedy. Maya might leave, might remain important to her. I might never become a daily father. The truth did not guarantee relationship. It made relationship voluntary. Grant's real child was the company because a company could be structured not to leave him. People could. He punished us for that freedom. His trial became a national argument about motherhood. Her lawyers showed 17 years of school lunches, hospital visits, bedtime stories, dance recitals, and handwritten notes. The prosecution showed the drug, birth switch, false coffin, trust transfers, and dead women. The defense said motherhood was lived, not genetic. The prosecution said care did not legalize abduction. Both statements were true. The jury had to decide crimes, not titles. Maya did not testify live. Her recorded statement said was her mother and the person who stole her. Commentators struggled with the sentence. They wanted one identity to cancel the other. His lawyer asked the judge to exclude the word stole because received the baby through Grant's authority and a hospital agreement. The judge allowed it as Maya's experience, not a legal conclusion. Described the injection. The cassette played only the portion Maya authorized. His final words remained sealed. Watched the recording with her hands folded. When Maya cried as a newborn, closed her eyes. Was it guilt? Love? Memory? The court did not need to decide. Grant under immunity limited to truthful cooperation. He blames Dose for and Julian for Ruth and his lawyer asked why he canceled the ambulance. He said transfer risk exceeded benefit. He said that was false. Grant's medical authority had made murder look like judgment. Julian tried separately. Evidence tied him to his injection, Pike's death, his attempted murder, Ruth's poisoning, and the synthetic trust consent. Cross cooperated and received a reduced charge. Families of people he misdiagnosed objected. Reasonably, Aaron pleaded guilty to obstruction for destroying one cassette copy and concealing. He received probation and community service due to later cooperation. I about accepting the settlement and leaving Maya's life. His lawyer asked whether I had ever tried to take custody before his letter. No. Did you suspect Maya might be yours? Yes. How long? Years. And you did nothing. I asked questions, entered archives, and then stopped. Why? Because my family convinced me I was dangerous, and because part of me preferred not to discover I had abandoned a living child. The answer hurt. It was true. Crime did not erase my retreat. The jury convicted her of manslaughter in death, kidnapping, identity fraud, trust fraud, conspiracy, and criminal failure to aid Ruth. They did not convict her of intentional murder. Julian was convicted of 2 murders: attempted murder, kidnapping, fraud, and obstruction. Grant was convicted later of conspiracy, obstruction, medical kidnapping, and reckless homicide-related offenses for withholding aid. Age and illness reduced his sentence, not the finding. Cross lost his license and went to prison. Hale Health entered permanent public benefit control. No family chair, no descendant trust, no retirement legacy. At sentencing, asked to address Maya. Maya allowed a written statement but no direct contact. Said, "Every day I raised you was real." Maya replied through counsel, "Yes, so was the night you took me." Neither truth won. Both entered the record. Received 22 years. Grant received 12. Julian received life. The law distributed punishment across acts. It could not assign one legal mother. That title remained Maya's decision. I called her once. It happened 6 months after the trial during lunch. Maya had begun meeting me twice a month. Public places, 90 minutes. No surprise questions about childhood, no photographs without consent. We discussed books, university applications, addiction, and the parts of Hale history she wanted to know. She asked what had called her during pregnancy. Then the waiter dropped a glass and Maya flinched. "Are you okay?" The name left me before thought. Her face closed. "I'm Maya. I know. Do you?" The question ended lunch early. For a week, she did not answer messages. The advocate, now her independent counselor, told me not to apologize repeatedly. Repeated apologies can become demands for reassurance. I sent one note. "I am sorry. Is part of a baby I lost. You are Maya. I will not use the name unless you ask." She responded 10 days later. "Thank you." The boundary seemed small compared with murder and kidnapping. It mattered because daily control often enters through small corrections refused. Maya continued contact with through letters. That hurt me. I did not tell her it should not. Had been her mother for 17 years. Prison did not erase attachment. Maya said's letters sometimes blamed Grant, grief, or fear. When they did, she stopped reading. She wanted answers without being recruited into forgiveness. She also wrote to Grant once. One question, "Why did you not call the ambulance for?" Grant replied with 4 pages about clinical risk, corporate exposure, my instability, and condition. Maya sent the letter back with the sentence unanswered highlighted. He wrote again, "Because saving her would expose what I had done." The first honest line. Maya kept it, not as reconciliation, as evidence that a person could eventually name his choice. I attended professional discipline hearings. The board found I had not knowingly participated in infant fraud, but had failed to escalate financial and record anomalies after leaving acute grief. My accounting license was suspended for 3 years. I sold the apartment purchased partly with Hale dividends and paid proceeds into the restitution fund. Maya said I did not have to sell it. "I know. Are you doing it to look good?" "Partly, maybe." She appreciated the uncertainty more than moral performance. Aaron and I rebuilt limited contact. His children learned why their grandfather and aunt were imprisoned. Aaron wanted to hide details until they were older. We negotiated what safety meant. No more complete secrecy. Age-appropriate truth. The family had confused disclosure with harm and concealment with care. We tried to separate them, entered witness protection under his real name. He wrote Maya a letter apologizing for signing the false records. She did not reply. His family received a settlement and public correction. Owen Pike's death certificate was amended from overdose to homicide. Ruth's death record changed. His infant death record was voided. The state issued a corrected birth certificate for Maya Vale, naming and me as biological parents, with an annotation that legal parentage had been fraudulently recorded at birth. Maya chose whether to list me on her everyday documents. She did, not because the certificate gave me a relationship, because she wanted the record accurate. I lost the right to call her without permission. I gained the responsibility to call her what she chose. The Hale investigation found 14 other infants with conflicting records. Not all were stolen. Some were anonymous adoptions processed illegally. Some involved parents coerced into surrender while medicated. 2 involved living children declared dead after wealthy adoptive families funded Hale programs. The family's crime had become a template, and Maya were not the only case. The receiver created an independent identity review project. No Hale family member held authority. Maya joined the advisory council after turning 20, not as owner, but as one of several affected adults. She insisted on payment for her work and the right to leave. The distinction mattered. We opened old records, not coffins at first. Then one family requested exhumation. The infant coffin contained medical waste and a weighted blanket. Another contained the stillborn child, whose identity had been used for a living adoption. Each discovery created 2 griefs. The child lost, the child misnamed. Families chose how much became public. No mass spectacle, no gala, no single father unveiling truth for applause. I worked as a supervised auditor. My role was limited to financial trails, not contact with affected people unless invited. One case involved a boy raised by loving parents who had no idea the adoption was fraudulent. The biological family wanted immediate reunion. The adoptive parents feared losing him. The boy wanted everyone to stop describing him as returned. Maya spoke with him privately through the council. She later said, "People think truth decides where you belong. Sometimes it only gives you the right to decide." Her experience had become useful. Usefulness did not obligate her. She took 6 months off when media attention returned. The project continued without making one survivor indispensable. Hale Tower lost Grant's name. The maternity wing was renamed for patients, nurses, and families affected by the record fraud. Moss's name appeared in the archive, not because she was perfect. She waited 17 years and accepted money during silence. Her final act still mattered. Ruth's letters became part of a sealed collection controlled by Maya and Aaron. I did not own my mother's confession. Cassette remained private, except for the court-authorized section. Maya kept the full recording in a trust, requiring her consent for future access. Documentarians offered millions. She declined. Her mother's death was not public property because it exposed public crimes. Continued writing from prison. Some letters contained genuine reflection. Others tried to recreate dependency. Maya learned to recognize both. She visited once after 4 years. I drove her but waited outside. When she returned, she cried for the entire ride. I did not ask whether she forgave. At home, she said, she remembered the name of every stuffed animal I had. Care remained. So did that help? I asked. No, yes, I don't know. All acceptable. We opened other empty coffins. Not to prove our family's story was special. To show it was not. Hale Health survived receivership. Grant had warned that independent control would close hospitals, destroy jobs, and abandon patients. 2 clinics merged. 1 executive wing closed. Hundreds of unnecessary management contracts ended. The neonatal units remained open. The world did not require a Hale at the center. The new board included nurses, patients, employees, public health experts, and 2 representatives selected by families affected by record fraud. No inherited seats. No continuity trust. Maya refused nomination the first year. Accepted a non-voting advisory role the second. Left after 1 term. The organization continued. That was success. Grant died in custody at 79. His final request was burial beside Ruth. Aaron and I asked the court to consult Ruth's written wishes. Her letters requested cremation and no shared memorial. Grant was buried alone. His headstone listed no title. Remained in prison. Julian exhausted appeals. Cross published an essay claiming institutional pressure corrupted psychiatry. Former patients responded that he had enjoyed power long before pressure. Both might be true. He still chose. My license was restored with restrictions. I joined a nonprofit auditing healthcare trusts. The first time a director said a family signature was close enough during an emergency, I stopped the transaction. Small interruptions mattered more than late dramatic exposure. Maya completed a degree in archival ethics and identity law. She did not work for Hale Health. She built a service helping adults access sealed birth and medical records without being forced into reunion narratives. Her office policy began with 1 sentence. Information does not create an obligation to form a relationship. I kept a copy above my desk. At 25, Maya invited Aaron and me to dinner. She also invited oldest friend, a teacher who had known her since childhood. The table did not resemble a traditional family. It felt safer because no one claimed the shape. Maya called me most of the evening. Once while passing bread, she said, "Dad." Neither of us reacted. The word did not become a ceremony or death. Later I asked whether she noticed. "Yes." "Did you mean it?" I said it. Enough. She told me she planned to marry her partner the following spring. They wanted a small ceremony with no hospital donors and no family speeches unless requested. I said I would follow instructions. Maya smiled. "You're learning. The company survived without a family. The family survived without the company. Those were separate achievements." Maya married in a public garden behind the old chapel, not inside the Hale atrium, not beneath Grant's portrait. No trust documents waited after the vows. No board transfer. No cameras except the photographer she hired, attended by approved prison video because Maya invited her for the ceremony only. The screen remained in a private room, not beside the altar. I walked no one down the aisle. Maya and entered together. Before the ceremony, Maya handed me a small box. Inside lay the newborn bracelets, locket, and the Polaroid mail. "I don't want these in my house," she said. "What should I do with them?" "The identity archive, under my access rules. Not destroy, not display, store without requiring her to carry them." I signed the transfer as a witness, not owner. Maya had legally changed her name again. Maya Moss Vale. Moss for the nurse who finally acted. Vale for the name she grew up with and chose to keep. For first name for her. No Hale. She combined truths without granting any family complete authorship. Saw the name on the wedding program through the video screen. She cried. Maya did not apologize. During the vows, she promised honesty without surveillance, care without ownership, and the freedom to leave any room. The language came from a life built around locked records and forced continuity. After the ceremony, Maya asked me to dance. One song. She called me Dad when introducing me to a friend. Later she called me while asking about the archive box. Both names belonged to her. I had stopped measuring relationship through titles. At sunset we walked past. The bronze time capsule had been removed during the investigation. In its place, the hospital installed a plaque listing the known victims of identity fraud and medical concealment. Hale, Ruth Hale, Moss, Owen Pike, families and infants whose names remained private. Grant's name appeared in the accountability report, not the memorial. S did too. Mine appeared beside the settlement authorization I signed, and the audit concerns I abandoned. Accuracy without equivalence. Maya stood before's name. I used to think she was the mother I was supposed to choose after rejecting. What do you think now? I think she died loving me. I don't know who she would have been as my mother. A mature grief. No ideal replacement. She touched the plaque once, then returned to her wedding. I stayed behind for a moment. 17 years earlier, I buried a baby who was not mine and accepted a document saying no child survived. I had believed the lie because powerful people repeated it, because grief impaired me, because I was sedated, and because questioning it threatened the only family supporting me. All true. I also stopped looking. That truth remained. Justice had not returned the baby. It restored the woman's right to know what had been taken and decide what every person became afterward. At the reception, Maya raised a glass. No family legacy speech. She thanked the advocate, Aaron, the archive team, and the people who respected her no. Then she looked its private screen at me, and at the place where Grant would once have sat. My family gave me several names, she said. Some were love, some were lies. I kept what I chose. The guests lifted their glasses. No applause large enough to turn the sentence into a performance. Just witnesses. My aunt stole my baby and buried her name. My father built a company around the burial. I exposed them at his retirement gala, but the ending was not that I took my daughter back. She chose a name none of us could give her. Then she walked into a life no family trust could control.
I've been broken, burned to dust, faded dreams in ashes rust. But from the fire